Hello and welcome to this video in which I am going to talk about my backup and synchronization strategy and what software can you use on Arch Linux to save your data and synchronize your data between multiple computers if you want to. So for this occasion I made a small slideshow. Why is backup an important thing? So you have a lot of data, different kind of data on your computer. Everything is data, your personal files, your work-related files, your videos, your music, and even your operating system is data. And data can be easily reproducible, like for example your operating system, because if your operating system or your program files get damaged or get compromised, you can always just reinstall them. It takes some effort to get that data back, but it's not really a big deal if it gets lost. There is some data that is reproducible by some effort. So for example your configuration files and your favorite bookmarks maybe on your web browser are reproducible by some effort. Maybe your music collection, you can get your CDs back into the CD drive and rip them to MP3s again. And of course there is data that is not reproducible or very difficult to reproduce, like your photos from your childhood. If they are lost, then yeah, good luck being a child again and taking those pictures again. And the same goes for like a 600-page novel or your own software that you are writing. So especially the data that is difficult to reproduce, you have to have some backup strategies, because if you only have the data in one place, then God forbid that one place that your data is stored gets damaged or stolen or something, then your data is no more. So you should have some backup, especially for those things. You can back up on a different disk in your computer or a different partition on the same disk. That can be sufficient if you only want to defend against data corruption, or you want to have some backup points for your computer. So for example, you want to install some software and you are afraid that that software can screw up your system, then you can just make a backup even on the same disk or just another internal disk, and you try what you want, and when things don't work out you can just use the backup to copy the files back. Of course, if you want to be more careful, you can save to another computer or to a network drive. Of course, cloud server services like Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive, they all are just other people's computers, so that fall into the other computer category, and you have to be careful if you can trust those entities storing your data. Of course, it's better if you have another computer that you can use as this kind of network backup drive, and even better if you can have this network computer at a different location, so even if your house burns down, the data is safe. And of course you can use removable drives. Do not use USB pen drives. Like, don't use the USB keys for backup, because those devices are very easy to be stolen, very easily lost, and they just stop working at one point and you cannot trust them. You can trust those storage devices the least. You only use the USB keys for very short times, like moving some files from one place to another, taking it with you on a road trip for a conference. But in that case, even it's better to take two of them to make sure. But of course you can have removable hard disk, like USB hard disk or USB SSDs, and you can use those. And the best practice, of course, is to have your most important data on removable storage, like a USB hard drive that is stored at a different location, which is like a bank or a post office have a safe or something, or someone you can trust and their house. So even if your house gets broken in, or it burns down or something, it's not good thing to think about this, but you have to be careful. Very important data should be backed up at a different location. And of course, in a different location, you cannot just do the backup every day. There is some cost-benefit analysis you have to do. Same with all the other backup strategies. Like, so if you just copy from one hard disk to another in the computer, that's very convenient. You can do it every hour if you want to. But if you have to travel to another city to put your storage, your remote backup to a safe location, then maybe you just want to do it once a month or once 2 months. Depends on your personal analysis of the situation. So that concludes the presentation part, and now we are going to the software part. So Syncthing is the first software I use personally. I use it most often. I use it. This is basically a file synchronization program, not especially a backup program, but basically it makes sure that your data is copied to another computer which is also running Syncthing without a cloud storage in the middle. Which means that with Syncthing you can synchronize your data between multiple computers, and you have to work on the same files on your home computer, and then when you go on a road trip you have to use your laptop and you want all the files to be available there too, and then you go to the office and you want the same files be available in the office too. That Syncthing is a good option for that. Of course, it does not use a cloud storage, which is a benefit in the privacy point of view. But it's a kind of a problem that you have to have the computers turned on between which you want to do the syncing. This can be solved very easily. In Linux and also in Windows, you can just issue a command that will turn off the computer maybe like 2 hours, 3 hours later, which is enough time for you to get from one place to another, and then you turn on the other computer and the two computers are turned on at the same time, and the synchronization will be done. And this is no cloud is included, so there is no limit on what's the amount of files that you can synchronize between the computers. So Syncthing is available from the Arch Linux repository. Just type the name Syncthing for Pacman to install the packages. And so Syncthing comes with natively a web interface which you can access from your web browser. You can also install a GUI but that's not really important, I think, because this web interface is very convenient to use. You can manage your remote devices. You have to when you add a new remote device, you have to type in this device ID here. You can give any name to this device, and to finalize the pairing of the devices in the other device, you have to go in and give the device ID of this computer, so random people cannot add your computer to their device lists. For folders, there is a default folder available, which will be in your home folder under sync probably, and you can set up for every folder like which device do you want to share it with. You can have a versioning strategy, which means that if there is a file that's changed on the other device, that in the default no file versioning case just will overwrite your file on this computer. But if you have a file versioning scheme set up, then it means that some backups of the original data on this computer will be saved. So if you are afraid that while you are on your commute from your workplace to home and someone can get to your work computer and delete your files, and you're afraid that Syncthing will just see that, oh, those files are deleted, and delete them from this computer too, then maybe you should have a file versioning scheme set up. You can use some ignore patterns, and for example, if you have another computer with your music which has iTunes installed, but you don't have iTunes on the Linux computer, so of course you don't want to get those files. Or if you have some other synchronization scheme with another software and that software also has some files, then you should put those on the ignore patterns too. So Syncthing is a very convenient alternative to these cloud syncing services like Google Drive or OneDrive or what have you. But of course this cannot be used to back up to a hard drive, for which I use this software, FreeFileSync, which is also synchronization tool, synchronization and backup tool. So Syncthing is not considered a backup tool, but you can use it for backups. But FreeFileSync is made to be a backup tool, and this is available from the Arch user repository AUR and under the name FreeFileSync. So you will have to clone this git clone URL and build the software from source, which can be inconvenient for you, but it's not really that bad as some people want to put it. So let me show you how this software looks like. So this is our main window for FreeFileSync. You can set up different folders, and for every folder you have like another folder which is the synchronization target, and then you can set these things up. So you can compare based on file time and size. This is usually sufficient. But if you are more paranoid, maybe you want to use comparison based on the content of the files. You can set up filtering here too. Yeah, Syncthing, you don't want to copy the Syncthing databases, so that's one of the things that are in this filter list. This is the excluded files and directories, and you can set up the synchronization strategy here, which can be two-way, which means that something changes on in the backup drive, then those changes will be propagated to your current drive. So this can be, so if you don't have like a network connection, you can use this program to synchronize to maybe a USB hard drive, and then you take your USB hard drive with you to the other place, and you can use the FreeFileSync there to synchronize back and forth, or you can just mirror. So if anything changes on your computer, that changes will be propagated to the other drive, but if something's changed on the other drive, those changes will just be simply overwritten by the files that are on the computer. Or you can use update, which will propagate the changes on the new files, but won't do anything about the new files that have been created or modified on the other drive. So this is for the FreeFileSync software, and let's go to the other software I use, which is RSync. So RSync is a command line utility for syncing and backing up stuff. This is a very sophisticated command line utility. You can use it for doing incremental backups. So for example, you make a backup today, but you also made a backup yesterday, and you don't want the unchanged files to take up more space. So you can tell RSync that just compare to yesterday's backup, and if there is any files that are the same, just please make a hard link instead of copying it again. And a hard link, of course, on these Unix-like systems such as Linux will mean that basically the file is only in one copy, but there are two different file names which can be in two different directories, of course, that refer to the same file. So in this way you can have multiple backups of your system. So this is useful for full system backups if you want to be able to restore your system to a specific date. So for example, you install new software and mess around with system setups, and you want to make sure that you can reset your computer to maybe yesterday's date, but also 1 week earlier date, then RSync is a very good option for you. You can use it and you can have a lot of system snapshots without them taking up too much space. So RSync is available for Arch Linux from the extra repository, which means you can just install it via pacman. And of course you can, because it's command line utility, it's very similar in abilities to software like Timeshift, I think, but I don't think you need to use Timeshift if you can, work with if you don't have any problem with working with a command line utility. I think RSync can do everything that those software can do, but because it is a command line utility, you can just write a script that does whatever you want it to do. So my script here is very simple. We define the source of the backup, which is, it's a system-wide backup, so it's the root directory. This is my backup directory, which is mounted in media, but it's a different disk than my root partition. It's a different internal drive. And then what I do is I check, did I call the script with parameters or not? And if I have one positional parameter, and this will be put in the manual folder, and the name of the backup will be what I gave it in this parameter, or otherwise it will be put in the daily folder with a name that is so it checks that did I make a backup today. So I can just run the script and it will check there was another backup in this day, so it will just exit the script. There won't be, so it won't make two backups in this automatic mode. But if there is no backup today, then it will make a name for this backup based on today's date and hour and minute. And then if I gave it a second parameter, then it will use this second parameter as the comparison folder, what does it compare to, and then if it's not, then it will just use this last. It will use these RSync options, A, capital X, lowercase I, and capital H. So this lowercase a is for archive, which is the same as RL, P, T, G, O, and capital D parameters in one. So this is a very usual combination, that's why it appears as one option. So this will be a recursive copy, so it goes into all the subdirectories. It will preserve the symbolic links. It will preserve permissions and the times of the files. It will preserve the groups and the owners of the files, and it will preserve the special devices amongst these copied. So for these to be preserved, you have to run RSync as a super user, as root. So you will have to call the script sudo, or you have to use sudo in the script when calling rsync. And then there is we give x, the capital X, to preserve extended attributes and preserve ACLs, and we use the lowercase I to put change summary, which we will use for logging purposes, and we will use keep hard links with this capital H. So if there are hard links in the system, then in the backup they will also be hard links. And then we have some list to exclude. So this is, I do it for system backup. So of course we don't want to backup /dev. We don't want to backup /pros or sys or temp or run or mnt or media. So these are where the external stuff are mounted, and these are like things that are populated by the kernel during runtime. So that's why we don't want to copy these ones either. Lost and found is something that's file system specific, so I don't want to copy that. And I also don't want to copy my home folder, because my home folder is huge and I already have backups for the important stuff in my home folder. So I will have a log file specified here where I will log everything that happens, and then we check if the if there is anything so we can compare to. So does it exist which I gave as a comparison file, and if there is, then I will give it as is, and if there isn't, then I will give this. This will give us an error, of course, but it will still work. And then we are running rsync. We write in the log. I print out the command for me so I can see what's going on, and then I run rsync. And when I run rsync, this all this output will be put into the log file, or if there is an error, then rsync failed will be put into the log file. Then we check if the things that we compare to is a symlink to something. If it is, then we remove the symlink, and then we create a symlink to the current backup under the name last, so it will be easy to find when we next run rsync, or when we next run this script. It will be very easy to find where did we link this backup. So this is my backup strategy for the system files, and so this concludes my video today. So I talked about Syncthing and FreeFileSync. These are both available for Windows and Mac OS too, and Syncthing is also available for Android, so you can even synchronize stuff to your phone or tablet. RSync, to my knowledge, is only available to Linux, so that's why but this is very good for doing the system backup, so that's why I only use this for system backup. FreeFileSync is very good to backup to external hard drives, because you can verify on the graphical interface the changes that are made, which can be very important for your personal files. This is not that important when you do a full system backup, so especially for an incremental backup, so in that case the rsync is good, but you can also use the logging that I showed you, and you can check what was happening there too. So this is the end of this video, and well, all these three software I showed you are open source and free software, so you can use them even if you are a free software purist. And of course, do your backups often enough so you don't have any data loss. And I wish you a good time with your data all intact and backed up. Bye bye.